China. China. That is the International in a Chinese communist propaganda movie. I will put a link in the description. Check it out. It's awesome. So, I used to be a Marxist. I used to be a communist. I never said I was a socialist. I used to see the Socialist Workers' Party as opportunists. Why? Because when I was 23, someone said to me, I hate SWP, they're opportunists. And I stuck with it. Yeah, me too, opportunists. So I want to explain to you how I became and why I became a Marxist, communist. I don't know the difference between them. I've pretended to in the past. I've even explained it to people. But the truth is, not a clue. So I will use those interchangeably and... yeah, maybe I'll try not to. Fuck knows. This is too hot. Ooh, I'm revealing myself. So, 18 years old. I do 7 years of higher education in total. My experience of higher education is the majority of tenured professors are red as fuck. Really, they really are. As I progressed, as I got higher and higher and ended up doing a master's degree, by that point, it is just a communist boot camp. It is flagrant. They are not even pretending anymore. You sit down, you shut up, you learn about communism, you get out there and you be it. Really, there's something else, man. And of course, at the time, I was over the moon. That's why I was fucking there. But where did it start? 18 years old. I'm at my third art college. I'm doing a degree in contemporary arts and a little minor in music. Regardless, it's a nice college. It's in the middle of the countryside. But life's starting to become serious. It's starting to become adult. I'm realising that if you want to make choices, if you want a bit of freedom, you need a bit of money. Where does money come from? Work. I ain't working for him. Fuck me. Look how much money he's got. What? Another 8 hours. What time have I got to get up? Shit, this is killing me. This will be what killed my old man, etc., etc. Whoa, look at the world. I get it. How comes we're working for someone else? What's going on? Look at history. Oh, hang on. People have done something about it. There's been revolutions. The Soviet Union, Lenin, he went round all the farms and he said to people, no, let's make an army. They made an army and they went and took on the royal family. They hung them up, they stuck an ice pick. No, that was Trotsky. Anyway, you get my point. It really appeals to a confused, angry young man who's starting to realise his future's going to be a little bit more difficult than school. There's a saying that communism appeals to the heart, where later in life a bit of conservatism appeals to the head. There's another saying, if you're not a socialist in your 20s, you haven't got a heart. If you're not a conservative in your 40s, you haven't got a brain. And it was in my 40s that I decided to end my relationship with communism, Marxism. And what am I now? Do you know, I'd say I was still left-leaning. I'd say, but you know, the liberal left is a fucking joke. It's humiliated itself. It ate itself, it farted, it shit itself out, it ate it, puked it up, ate it again, and now it's embarrassing. Libertarian. Perhaps I'm a libertarian. That seems to fit where I am at the moment. But you know, there's things I agree with on the left, on the right, centre left, centre right, far left, far right. You know, these things, I don't know how well that traditional line serves us anymore. I'm not sure. I think it might actually limit us for making decisions. Anyway, so I turn up at this art college and this tutor arrives. He's not there for my first year, I don't think. All nice tutors, all left-wing without doubt, and then he arrives. He looks amazing. He's got a shaved head. He wears like a black, with a black, I don't know what you'd call it, it's like a waistcoat, but it's like made like cargo shorts. It's got big pockets all over the place and zips. And he's like walks around and he's flashing. He's got some black Levi's 501s. And it's weird because I had dreadlocks and army clothes and this bloke was just smart, cool. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And everyone was so... it was like a moment of mystique arrived. People wanted to know more. He didn't give a lot either. He was kind of reserved until he wanted to be, and then he said things and it was like magic, and he said the most amazing things, and I was just inspired, as I should have been. He was a mentor to me. He was a great thinker, a great speaker, a great tutor. In 7 years of higher education, I never came across anyone that motivated me and inspired me as much as this man. I still talk to him today. Literally, I spoke to him earlier today. Only on Facebook, but you know. And he was a Marxist. Apparently, I don't think he ever come out and said it, but he taught me Marxist ideas. He taught us Marxist literature. And I was really into it. But this is the weird thing about communism, the history of romantic artworks and music. You know, the idea of Viva la Revolution, it is a romantic idea. You know, the Spanish Revolution, or the idea, I see these beautiful women in denim shirts with these old Lee Enfield rifles taking out the fascists with these like red scarves around their neck. And it's there, you don't get that for much else. The Nazis had it, but only for like 12 years. I mean, hardly the same, is it? And then there's all the Nazism stuff that goes with it. But weirdly, that's kind of separate from the communist stuff. You know, people have like Che Guevara t-shirts, and it's like, you know, let's be honest, the Cuban Missile Crisis, it nearly started the Third World War. And the history of atrocities that communism has left in its wake, the Soviet Union, the deaths, the rivers of blood, Maoism in China. You know, I don't know if you know this, but Mao told all the peasants, all the village farmers to make steel. He'd looked at England, he'd looked at Europe and saw they were making steel. So he said, he got them to build these really crude kilns and got them to, furnaces, and got them to manufacture steel out of their fucking woks and their spades and their axes. So all these little communes, they'd done it. They melted down all their woks and their axes and their spades, and they made steel. And then the communist government went around and collected all the steel, but it was shit. So it was all dumped in the sea. Meanwhile, all the peasants have got nothing to cook with and nothing to work with. They were a predominantly agricultural country. Nothing to work with. No farming tools, melted it all down. No woks, melted them all down. What do you think happened? That's right, an estimated 40 million people starved to death. People were eating each other. There's reports, there's like written histories of people eating other living people. Now, nowhere in Das Kapital does it say you must eat the dying limbs of your friends. But, you know, there's no doubt there is a history of hideous human suffering in the wake of communism as it's been implemented in most, if not all, of the historical situations we can identify. And yet there's this crazy romance, this amazing romance, and it totally absorbed me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I read all the books, well, not all of them, but I read a lot of them. I've already said this, I can't remember. Das Kapital, the third volume, Theories of Surplus Value, German Ideology, the Communist Manifesto, Lukács's History and the Class Consciousness of the Proletariat, Reification and Class Consciousness. You know, I lapped this stuff up. Absolutely lapped it up. When I got into postmodernism and post-structuralism, all those writers were exceptionally left-leaning. Derrida, Jacques Derrida, post-structuralist par excellence. You know, my literary hero then, and still an amazing admiration for him. You know, it's essentially a Marxist route. He wrote Spectres of Marx. So I just love this stuff. You know, let's have a look. Let's have a look at, Che Guevara, for Christ's sake.
Ernesto Che Guevara.
He is a Marxist, a soldier, a physician, and the power behind Fidel Castro.
What is the most important quality for a revolutionary to possess?
El amor.
Love.
And there you go. What's the most important... Shit, I can't remember what he said because I was fiddling around with a fucking microphone. Here we go.
Love.
Love.
El amor.
Love.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
What is the most important quality for a revolutionary to possess?
El amor.
Love.
Amazing. The most important quality for a revolutionary. Love. Listen to what else he says.
Love.
Love of humanity, of justice and truth. A real revolutionary goes where he is needed.
I mean, this stuff can get me crying now. You know, I remember once I had one of these flags here. I think I had this one, which is from Russia. My brother bought it back for me. I had this up in my window and an Irish paramilitary flag, you know, the orange, green and white thing, with the paramilitary there with the ballet on and the Kalashnikov silhouette. And I come out my house one morning and a bloke who lived downstairs to me went, "What you got those stupid flags in your window for?" I went, "I'm a revolutionary." He went, "You're a junkie." And I was, well, mate. But, I just totally got into this stuff and I went with it. And it gets you attention. People are interested in it because no one else is. Rarely would I be at a party and someone else go, yeah, I'm a Marxist too. And, you'd hold court with these amazing romantic ideas and you learn to argue because you don't stop arguing. People don't like it, so they will argue with you, so you learn how to argue. You learn specific arguments. I remember at Leeds University, I was selling Living Marxism, and it was an interesting thing. This is about 94, and there was this big issue about freedom of speech on campus. Weird how these things go around. And I remember there's a fundamentalist Islamic organisation called the Hizb ut-Tahrir, and they'd been banned from UK universities and campus for their homophobic, racist, sexist, same old shit still going on then. There were things they said which were awful according to a lot of people, and they were banned. And Living Marxism and the Revolutionary Communist Party of Great Britain, which we are all members of, we were like, no, because next it could be us, and that's what it was like. And I think, if I remember rightly, we got the Hizb ut-Tahrir reinstated. They were allowed to speak because freedom of speech is essential for a free society. And there was this big debate in the Leeds University debating chambers, and I remember our man stood up, this incredibly well-read and intelligent bloke called Michael. He talked a bit like a spath, though. But he stood up and he explained about freedom of speech, and it was this rousing. I remember sitting there just thinking, fucking yes, go on, Michael, go fucking wicked. And then the Hizb ut-Tahrir spokesman said his piece, and he just read from the Quran for ages until he was physically removed from the building. So our point was made. And I was doing it, and I was getting so much attention, selling Living Marxism and arguing with people. It was just amazing. And this sort of stuff went on. And then in 95, Ken Loach released Land and Freedom, which is a story of the Spanish Civil War, where they sent people over to England and other places, I'm sure, to recruit people to fight the fascists. And I went and saw it in this little cinema in Leeds. It had like little oil lights, and there was only about 300 people max. No, less than that, maybe about 150. And we watched Land and Freedom, and what a film! A rousing, it's almost a call to arms, and it really is. Let's have a look at a bit of Land and Freedom. Ken Loach. I'll put the link in the description.
These are the fascists. This is what they're doing to us. I want you to join with us. Make our fight your fight. No pasará. They shall not pass. No pasará.
I'm going over to Spain.
Why are you?
We've got to do it. We've got to do it now. We've got to have no future here.
I can't spare you.
Dear Kit, well, I'm a soldier now with the Poon Militia. Just ordinary men and women fighting for a cause.
Oh man, it was something else. If that Spanish Civil War was going on when I was that age and I was in Leeds, and this fella turned up and showed those movies and said, we need your help in Spain, I would have gone, man. I would have gone. I was always on the lookout for a revolutionary battle I could take part in. The 2 or 3 I found were a little bit on tops. People would well call me out on that one as well at parties. They go, well, if you're such a revolutionary, what about so-and-so? Why aren't you out there? And I was like, well, sometimes the intellectuals are needed to do other things. I am here to spread class consciousness. Wanker. So yeah, this carried on. And if you don't know, it's time the basics of Marxism, of communism certainly, are quite simple. Some people, the ruling classes, own the means of production, the way of producing things, factories. The working classes work in those factories, and the middle classes manage those factories. Essentially, the ruling classes are oppressing everyone else, okay? So I took it on. I was a Marxist. I was a revolutionary. I talked this stuff. I argued this stuff. I stood by it. And when people said to me, yeah, but what happened with Mao and what happened in the Soviet Union? Cuba weren't too good. And I was like, and what I used to say was, well, it really needs to be a global project because, when the rest of the world stops trading with a communist country, they really can't succeed. And I remember I was at a party once and I was having this argument with someone and he was whipping my ass. And at one point I said to him, who are you to sit here? This was in front of everyone. I went, who are you to sit here telling me that I'm wrong? And I can't remember it exactly, but he said something like, I'm head of history of European warfare at Cambridge University. He went, who are you? And I went, second year art student, Dartington. Anyway, I carried this on all through my 20s. You know, I was a Marxist. But was I? And this is key. You know, when I was a student, I did do all the reading. I did write the essays. I tried to learn this stuff. I tried to work out how we could put Marx's ideas in a contemporary setting and actually create a revolution in England. I remember one bloke said to me just offhand, he went, there's no point having a revolution in a country that hasn't got nuclear weapons. And of course, that stuck. It sounded so good and so honest and so there. I used to trot that out in parties. People would go, well, wouldn't it make sense to have like a revolution, like, you know, in a small country, like maybe the Isle of Wight, and start there? And I'd be like, no. If they haven't got nuclear weapons, it's hardly worth doing. Yeah, sure. And, you know, and I did study and wrote essays and tried to learn this stuff, tried to develop it for as conceited and grandiose as that sounds, tried to push it forward, tried to give it a place now. Slowly but surely, I stopped reading about it. Slowly but surely, the holes started to appear in it. And after a while, I just remember, you know, this is something about this. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. Is it going to work? Are there going to be any revolutions in countries with nuclear weapons? The evidence so far doesn't look that good. Doesn't look like it's going to work. For all the romance, for all the amazing identification with it, for all the answers it provided, it clearly has not worked. But I couldn't let go of it because I'd built so much of my identity around it. I had the flags. I had the badges. I called my friends comrade. Sometimes tongue-in-cheek, but I still done it. Any artistic projects I got involved with, I tried to give it a kind of Soviet Union sort of aesthetic edge. You know, people knew me as a communist. I'd say it all the time. I went to Venezuela and I wanted to have the hammer and sickle tattooed on my arm. And the bloke doing the tattoo, it was only at the last minute, he said, you know what? This is going to cause you problems when you're travelling. So I went for that instead. Oh, thanks, mate. That's caused me more, I can assure you. But yeah, and then it was just pure identity. I went out to Kiev and I had this girlfriend, not a lover, but a friend who was a girl that I met online, and she met me in Kiev. And it was amazing to be in the Ukraine and go around all these old buildings, and it just looked communist. And I was just loving it, and I was talking to her about it and getting her to take me to places where clearly no other tourists would bother with. And the things that attracted me to the area, she was like, hey, weird. And then, they have these flea markets where they're just selling tons. You can imagine how many little commie badges there are that people used to have to wear. People are selling these and little red stars and military patches, and I was buying them, and I was talking to vendors about maybe getting loads to England and selling them on and all this. And she took me aside and she said to me, I think your interest in communism is just about aesthetics and identity rather than any real political idea. And I was like, she was so right. She was so right. And I know so many people like this. They haven't done anything actively communist in decades, and they still say they're a communist. Because they can't let go of it, because it'll mean too much, and they've invested too much of their identity in it. It's not hard to let go of a political idea. It's not hard to let go of an idea. Ideas are easy to let go. That's what you do. That's how you learn. You only learn by letting go of ideas. You have to make room for the new one, and the new one will barely leave room for the old ones. I mean, that's almost a Marxist dialectic there. Oh, this stuff, it runs thick in my blood. But, they struggle with it. But when I saw this whole social justice thing starting to gain ground, and when I realised that what we have got going on is a cultural Marxism, where they have taken the idea of the oppressor and the oppressed, the ruling class and the workers, and they've moved it to any little binary where there's what they see an oppressor and an oppressed. Feminism is cultural Marxism, the oppressor being man, the oppressed being women. You know, racism is the same. The oppressor being the white man, the oppressed being people of colour, ethnic minorities. And I saw this stuff being bandied around, and I just thought, you know what, this is nonsense. And I saw Marxists arguing on the internet, and I was like, I can't go along with this anymore. I can't. And it was amazing. I just said it to myself, sitting there at the computer once, and I went, I'm not a Marxist. I'm not a communist. I'm not. And I remember I had to sit back, and it was weird, because I built so much of my identity into this, so much romantic histories into my idea of what communism was. And of course, all those answers it gave me, even though they weren't being implemented on a world scale, they were still there. This could happen. You know, maybe one day there's a chance for the world. But as I let go of it, and as I sat back, and as I thought, and as I read a bit more, I realised that, you know, what we've got is pretty good. It's not perfect. But look at England. Look at England. There's problems. There's loads of problems. We're animals, for Christ's sake, trying to organise ourselves for the best of everyone. And England is not bad. Look around the world. Anywhere much better? Look through history. Anywhere much better? Again, I had romantic visions. You know, I like to wear nice suits. Not at the moment, but I do. And occasionally people say, oh, I bet you'd have loved it in the Edwardian era when everyone wore suits. And I'm like, yeah, it'd have been amazing. But did they fuck? The workers didn't. They wore sackcloth suits. They were covered in shit and they were dying in hovels. The people in the paintings, they were the ruling classes. So I let it go. And with it went a lot of my identity. And thankfully, because I grew, I'm older, and I took on some new identities. Ones that were true to how I felt, were true to my relationship with the world, were true to my business plans and successes, were true to what I want out of my future, and were true to how I chose to analyse what was going on in the world. When I hear communists talking now, it's laughable. It's hard to find a communist who can actually engage me and make me think that what they might be saying has got any validity, because I've heard it all. Clearly, hashtag not all, but it's rare. If anyone out there's got anything that they think they could send me that might make me think, actually, yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that, send it away. But I haven't found any. So there you go. Kind of weird. I mean, it's hard for me to explain how much of this stuff I actually took on and how much of my identity became that. You know, when you take that away from you, when you lose that stuff, you've got to explain things differently. You've got to understand things differently. A hell of a lot of stuff as well. But what a thing to do. Because as soon as you stop changing, you stop learning, and vice versa. As soon as you stop learning, you stop changing. And I don't want to stop changing, and I don't want to stop learning. It was hard, though. It was hard to let go of it. I didn't want to. It answered stuff, a lot of stuff. And I like to think about it. I like to think about the revolutions. I like to think of them romantically, which I still do. I'm allowed that. There you go. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of this. It's a weird one, I know. I'll leave you with this. Take care of you and yours. Au revoir, comrade.